What's going on, y'all? We're back with another video. Today what we're going to be watching is Jeff the Land Shark origin story. You know, we've known so much about the mainland characters. How about the underwater characters? You know what I'm saying? We're going to look more into depth on the other characters as well, but first person we got for a water type person is Jeff the Land Shark. So without further ado, let's get into this.
Okay, so you guys have been screaming at me in the comments section to make a video of the most. These also in book cover, and then there's the Infinity comics, which are just full of these little adorable misbegotten adventures of Jeff, and you're gonna love it. It's absolutely hilarious. So the origin story for Jeff actually comes in kind of the first volume of West Coast Avengers back in 2018, I think it was, and it spans about 6 or 7 issues in terms of how it all kind of ties together. Initially, you don't see Jeff. In fact, what actually happens in issue number 1 is Kate Bishop is just like riding land sharks along the West Coast because they've just somehow appeared somewhere or another and are just kind of attacking everybody, right? And of course, Clint Barton, one of the most overpowered characters of Marvel Rivals, jumps in, and he kind of helps them sort of tag them, but at the end of the day, they don't really know where the land sharks came from, and ultimately the land sharks are kind of led back to water. And then you don't really see anything from them again for quite some time. Instead, with issues number 2 through 5, essentially, it's just kind of like a handful of different villains that are all sort of taking pot shots at the West Coast Avengers. It's hilarious, right? The comic is incredibly goofy, and we can actually cover the comic itself if you guys are interested in it. But Jeff doesn't really come to play until you get to issues 6 and 7. And the reason for that is because what you end up learning in issues 6 and 7 is that the land sharks themselves had actually been created by MODOK. And that MODOK, alongside these other villains, had kind of come together for the purpose of essentially destroying the West Coast Avengers. Now, of course, none of them really succeed, and the land sharks are effectively defeated along with the regular sharks, you know, that are trying to kill members of the team. But Jeff makes his debut in 6 and 7 when Gwenpool appears with Jeff in tow. Now, as I understand it, the idea behind Jeff as a character is that he was not supposed to be anything serious in Marvel. That all that was really going to happen with Jeff was that Gwenpool would just like show up, right, with like a different animal or some kind of a critter, name it Jeff, and then ultimately it would like die or it would disappear or just kind of vanish from continuity, never to be seen or heard from again, and nobody would really ask questions or anything like that. Kind of an on-running gag. Such as it was, people loved Jeff. Like, they thought Jeff was like the most adorable thing ever in Marvel. And it makes perfect sense, right? Just this little like adorable baby land shark. It's just not something that you see every day. And so Jeff as a character just kind of like popped in and out from Marvel after this over a period of time. He was really just more of a background character that would observe things. So like in the Gwenpool Strikes Back stories, which Gwenpool was ridiculously OP. In fact, there was one point where she was like more powerful than everything in existence and like control the multiverse and all kinds of crazy stuff. But like she defeats the Hulk, for example, and like, you know, Jeff is there watching it unfold. A lot of the stories that you guys are really curious about when it comes to Jeff as a character in Marvel really just come from the Infinity comics. And the Infinity comics were basically these digital only comics, and they still are. Marvel does Infinity comics for all kinds of stuff. But they were just like these little textless short stories involving Jeff getting involved in like these misbegotten adventures. Although he does do some cool stuff. There's one point where it turns out he has the Infinity Gauntlet. There's one point where like he overpowers the Avengers, like wrecks the Avengers. It's amazing. But they're all designed to be a little comedic and a little nonsensical. So like one of these, for example, is called the Jeff World Tour. And he ends up basically just kind of like traveling the world and just sort of experiencing everything. But what you end up finding out is Jeff actually hasn't gone anywhere. Instead, like his little world tour is Jeff just hanging out with Gwenpool while like she paints these landmarks. And Jeff just like imagines himself there, right? Like a French guy eating a baguette and like pushing up the Leaning Tower of Pisa, like when you see all those people standing with their hands just kind of sticking in the air. It's cute, right? It's little things like that. There is one called Pool Party, which is absolutely amazing and adorable. So the whole thing about...
So basically, so far, he's just a land shark that was a side character, but now turned into a main character.
Pool Party is that Jeff shows up here basically just kind of like hanging out with all the superheroes, right? The Avengers and everybody. Of course, Iron Fist is there because, you know, in the moment, he's not just like demolishing everyone in Marvel Rivals and the bane of every person's existence who's playing that game right now. But like when Jeff's swimming around and like this adorable little floaty and like, you know, snorkels and all that kind of stuff, which is weird because he's a land shark and he doesn't need it, that as he's swimming around, people start freaking out because they see a shark fin in the water. And everybody just jumps out of the pool, right? They're absolutely terrified of him, which is kind of cute. There's another one called Shark Cycle, because in Marvel Comics, over Jeff's various adventures, there was a washer by side of a washer. Like, it's these small little hanging out. All the Avengers, because Land Shark walks into a store, buys some stuff, and leaves. What I was doing was, in order to basically make everybody feel good, he ended up getting a dolphin costume, and he's just like swimming around the water as a dolphin, and everybody's having a blast. Nobody's terrified for their lives or anything like that.
Lame
But then
ass
there's this
niggas.
other story where I'm shot as octopi, a batters, and Dom, because the mask of Jeff wraps them all so much, so adorable when he popped up that people were getting like Jeff plush.
What's up, Rivalers, and welcome to the ultimate Jeff the Landshark guide.
Yeah, so basically, you
Okay.
know, Jeff the Killer is crazy. Jeff the Land Shark. He was a side character that turned into a main character, I guess. Not much to that one. No, not a real backstory to that one. And the Deadpool girl, what's her name?
Okay, so you guys have-
Gwenpool. She kind of brought him into light. Shout out to her for that one. So now we got that one out the
So as
way.
most of you guys are aware,
Shout out comics. Explain that one. I'm gonna catch you on another one. Y'all be smooth.